Well, good morning. And of course, the big focus today is on the cabinet meeting we understand to be underway this morning ahead of the budget speech later this afternoon. The second attempt at a budget speech by the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana. Songezo Zibi is the chair of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts and leader of the political party Rise Mzansi. Songezo, good morning to you and thank you for your time. Firstly, what's your understanding of the political situation at the moment? Are you expecting the Finance Minister to be able to go ahead with his speech at 2 o'clock this afternoon?
Good morning, Stephen, and thanks for having me on. Yes, I expect the Finance Minister to be able to table his budget. There are 3 bills that the Finance Minister will table in his speech. The one is Appropriations Bill, Division of Revenue Bill, and a bill on taxes. And we all know that the big issue last time was the mooted VAT proposal. But I spoke to him last night. He said he is going ahead and tabling the budget this afternoon. So I'm sure that will happen.
So are we now going to have a situation then when he'll give the speech and then in some way the real negotiation in Parliament might start, that the budget might actually change after that?
Yeah, so, Stephen, the beauty of our system is that the decision on the budget actually takes months. So we're not going to have a government shutdown like you have in the United States. I think the budget vote, the actual vote on the budget will be in June or July, thereabouts. So there's enough time for the MPs and political parties to negotiate and do a bit of horse trading. What is really important, Stephen, for me are 2 things. The first is that we must maintain our fiscal framework, because if we don't, we are telling the bond market, which is really important for our borrowing, and the investor community that we cannot be trusted to manage our finances in the manner in which we said we would. The second thing is that I hope that all the MPs in Parliament will engage with the specifics of the budget and look at it holistically, not just one issue, to see whether on a balanced basis it serves the interests of the country, the interests of the poor, and protects the future of our children.
So I just want to go back a little bit because I think there are some concerns about this. So if there's no budget speech today, even if Parliament does what Parliament sometimes does, and there's a big fight about it, government workers are still paid. Schools will still be open tomorrow and will be open for several months. There'll be none of that you see in the United States.
No, absolutely. In fact, there will be a budget speech, but even if various political parties come out and say they are unhappy with aspects of the budget, for the next 3 months or more, there is enough money to do what needs to be done. So because we work in 3-year budgeting cycles, there was an amendment to the budget in February, and that usually takes care of the period beyond the financial year. Services will happen, people will get paid. For the ordinary South African, life will continue to be normal while we debate in Parliament.
Thank you for the reassurance. I do appreciate it. You made an important point about debt, and Dr. Azar Jamin, the head of econometrics, was telling us on this program yesterday that, in fact, one of the most valuable things is that no one has been talking about increasing debt to get out of our problems. Everyone's been talking about, do we cut expenditure? Do we raise VAT? Would you agree with them? I mean, that's a crucial point, isn't it, that no one is saying we should just raise the debt and therefore contribute to our generational inequality?
Absolutely, Stephen. In 2013-2014, the country owed about 1.79 trillion. By the end of this financial year, it will owe over 5.3 or 5.4 trillion. When you break that down into every working South African, each of us has grown from being responsible for 70,000 rand, just over 70,000 rand, to over 114,000 rand in terms of our debt. It's also got an impact on service delivery. Debt is now the second highest expenditure item in the budget. We pay over 1.2 billion rand per day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, just paying interest on that debt. Why? Because we are rated junk. We pay 10% on our debt, instead of 3.1% like the Chinese are paying, or 6% like we used to pay. So just maintaining fixing the fiscal framework, it lowers our cost of borrowing, and it would release literally over 100 billion back into the budget that we can use to invest in growth and to invest in service delivery.
This entire debate, and you've made this point in the last couple of days, many others have too, that this entire debate has been reduced to should we increase VAT or not? And there's so many other things that can happen. I mean, I haven't seen a widespread debate around what in government we could cut. I mean, for example, in driver's license centres in Gauteng, the former transport MEC said you had to pay a bribe to get a licence. So this means that people who are being paid to do a government service are receiving bribes and then demanding an increase every year. I mean, there's a lot we could change in government that would surely get us a lot more money.
There's a lot we can change in government. I mentioned in the media briefing we had on Monday that the government overpays for the property that it rents. In some instances, the government pays as much as 45% more than what ordinary companies for similar amount of space in similar locations. If we brought government rental expenses back in line with what the market is paying, government could save tens of billions as an example. I highlighted the problem of water leaks. At some point, the city of Tshwane was losing over R500 million per year because it spends the money getting the water, cleaning it, treating it, and in distribution, that water gets lost and it doesn't collect the revenue. So what I'm trying to say is when we talk about an efficient government, we're not talking about government cuts. We're talking about doing what the Constitution says must be done, which is to spend the money of the South African people efficiently. The more efficiency, the less tax increases in the future.
There are so many things that we need to do. We need to have a proper big conversation around what we need a budget for, where it should go. I know several people have suggested, in fact, that they would support a zero-based budget. Colin Coleman has suggested it, the former head of Goldman Sachs in Southern Africa. Neil Coleman, the head of the Institute for Economic Justice, said yesterday on this program he also supports zero-based budgeting. Should we go that far? I mean, sure, the main expenditure items would still be health and education, but do we need to look at a zero-based budget, start again in some way?
Look, Stephen, we can try various things, including that, but my biggest gripe, and it's my job now as chairman of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts to look at things like waste and inefficiency and so on, is that we often don't talk about the cost of political chaos. You can do zero-based budgeting, but you're still going to get or Tambo municipality or some other municipality, or somewhere, where they receive the money. It actually gets spent, but it's spent poorly. It's either stolen or spent on the most useless things. I'll give you a very quick example, Stephen. There's a municipality in the Northwest that rented VIP toilets for everybody in the municipality, including the houses where there was running water and a flush toilet. So they were just standing there outside. That's inefficiency. If you save that money that you use in ways like that, put it back into service delivery, then you begin to see the change in people's lives.
Songezo Zibi, really appreciate the time this morning. Thank